Hey, it's me, Ned. It's been a while since I did a video because it's winter and there's just, I can't drive all my wacky cars in the winter. But I was just changing the spark plugs on my old 96 Legacy, which is, I feel like I shouldn't call it a beater, but that's basically what it is. It's a winter beater. And I'll try to get these like right where you can see them. These are about almost the worst that I've ever seen spark plugs. The gap is huge. The car was misfiring under load and at low RPM, and it seemed like spark, it wasn't fuel, it was because it ran okay, like higher up in the rev range, and air generally is not the problem with an internal combustion engine. Air can usually get in there no matter how bad the filter is. So I went to change the spark plugs, and I was happy to see that the spark plugs do indeed seem like they are the problem. But it just blows my mind how easy it is to change them on a naturally aspirated old EJ22, where like they're just right there on the sides of the motor. It's still more complicated than like an inline four, like my old Toyota Celica, but so much easier than on my WRX. So yeah, that's cool. That should fix that. Ha! They all broke. But it just made me think about my WRX. I've been meaning to do this for a while and talk about how awesome my WRX is, and that saying that it has 300 horsepower and 300 plus pound-feet of torque at the wheels doesn't quite do it justice. You can hopefully see here. So the car makes 300. What is it on here? 307 pound-feet of torque max on this conservative Mustang dyno, and 291 horsepower. But the real awesome thing about this, what makes the car so really legitimately fast on the street, is that max boost comes on at like 3,100 RPM. Okay, it hits 19, it hits about 19 PSI at like 3,100 RPM, and then max torque comes in at like 3,500 RPM. So it's putting down about 310 pound-feet of torque, on a Mustang dyno. So when you look at the amount of air, at 19 PSI, the amount of air that the turbo is flowing, it's 400 horsepower at the crank worth of air that it's flowing. So 400 pound-feet of torque anyway. So 400 pound-feet of torque at 3,500 RPM. So just like normal driving around town, cruising around, normal RPM, there's almost no lag when you actually get on it. Like the turbo is already pretty well spooled, so you punch it and the car just stands right up and launches. And then horsepower, torque stays, it tails off. The turbo maintains 18 psi all the way to redline. Peak horsepower is like 6,500 RPM. So significantly higher. But what that means, so it makes power all the way from like just over 3,000 RPM all the way to redline. It pulls like a demented like hurricane. Well, that's what it sounds like, but it pulls like a beast. So even though it's not putting down like huge horsepower to the wheels, it's a relatively light car, and because of where the power is, how usable it is, how wide the power band is, it is really fast on the street. Probably part of why I blew up the transmission at the end of the summer. So, yeah, that's the next step. There will be probably a couple of epic videos of me driving up to Montreal to pick up an imported STI 6-speed to swap into the car to get it back on the road for summer. And once I have that, and I'll also be getting the Brembo brakes and, heavier duty diffs from a version 7 STI. But so once I have those, then there's really nothing stopping me from going and like taking it to a drag strip and seeing what the car can actually do. It's the it's the details that matter. Like, it's easy to make big power way up top with a whole lot of boost. But I am really happy with the Blouch 16G XT turbo that I have that, you know, can maintain 18 psi to redline, but that spools up earlier, and the equal length stainless steel and thermal heat tape wrapped equal length HKS header that I've got. I think that definitely helps. That and the Grimmspeed up pipe, all of that really helps the turbo spool up that little bit earlier, and that's what makes it such a like weapon on the street driving around. That instantaneous just explosion of power. Yeah, so details. It's the details that it comes down to, I think, really in anything, but particularly working on a complex system like an internal combustion engine like this. So anyway, just wanted to check in, check out that Lancia Fulvia there. Man, I want to drive something like that, maybe when I go to the Canary Islands. Ooh, that's another story for later on.